Hi, this is Sabin Bharti and welcome to TFiR Newsroom, a special edition we have for Red Hat Summit. And today we have with us Brian Grizzly, Senior Director, Product Strategy at Red Hat. First of all, Brian, thanks for coming on the show. We were supposed to meet in person, but we have to do it virtual.
I know. Hey, great to have me. Great to be with you. I wish I was with you live like we usually are, but good to see you in person.
Yeah, but let's try to make lemonade out of this lemon that we have been handed over. Let's talk about the announcement that Red Hat is making today. It's about OpenShift virtualization and Red Hat Advanced Cluster Management for Kubernetes. So what I want to understand is that we will go into these two announcements, but also what I want to start with, what is the problem that you are trying to solve? Because when we look at VMs and stateless and all those things, so talk about that a bit.
If we step back just a bit, we've been probably the most consistent company talking about Kubernetes and hybrid cloud for the last number of years, right? We've seen a lot of competitors who have kind of shifted and pivoted. So it's really, we've been sort of saying three things. Number one, we think Kubernetes is going to be the foundation of sort of the platforms people use for hybrid cloud. It's proven to be really robust for a broad set of applications. It runs well on every cloud these days. People know how to secure it. So a lot of what we're talking about today is, first and foremost, how does OpenShift advance? That's our enterprise Kubernetes platform. The second piece has been, we've never had a way for customers as they grew past a few clusters to really manage it at scale. So we're really going to talk a lot about how do we start to manage this at scale. There's some new technologies we're bringing to help with that. And then the last thing is, while Kubernetes has been great and containers are great for a set of applications, at some point, customers ask us, they say, hey, will you ever reach a point where we only have one platform to manage? I have a container platform, I have a virtualization platform. Am I always going to have to manage two? And we've been working on some technology for the last couple of years that's now coming to market that's going to allow that to be one consistent unified platform.
Can I also, before we go there, can I also talk about what are the cases where VMs make more sense versus when you talk cloud native? Because you also look at a lot of stateless applications, but you also need a lot of stateful. Yeah.
We found it's a couple of different things. So, obviously VMs have managed a lot of applications for a long time. Some of those have been able to migrate to containers just sort of natively, a lot of the Linux applications. So it's a couple different categories, right? Some of them are some of your older Windows applications that probably will never run as a Windows container. That's a big footprint. The second one is there's just a lot of applications that if they're vendor, packaged applications, they may not have made an investment to make them run in containers. And so they're still looking for them to run on a known operating system in a virtual machine. And then sort of the third category is, there's a set of applications, maybe they're databases, maybe they're a little more high performance, where the teams that run those today are basically like, look, I know how to manage the I/O in a virtual machine. I know how to secure a virtual machine. I'm not really looking to change anything. So I want to continue using a virtual machine. So those are the three categories of what would stay in a virtual machine. The other one that we see a lot is developers that will come to us and they'll say, hey, we're beginning to build more cloud native applications. We're building microservices. But there's always some piece of what we do that probably still is going to be in a container. Maybe it's a database, it's a SQL database or something. And what they've told us is we're not really looking to change that. But what we would love to change is in the past, if I needed a virtual machine, I went to the infrastructure team. I said, can I have a virtual machine? And they might take 2 or 3 months sometimes to get it for you because it had to go through procurement, it had to go through security checks. When you make virtual machines part of that self-service Kubernetes piece, now the developer can move at the same pace. The pace they did for containers, they can move at with virtual machines as well. So we think it's going to be a big help for developers who are building sort of mixed applications and want to have self-service around that.
So basically, you're making it easier for them to bring their existing or those traditional kind of applications without making any compromises with the benefits that we get with the cloud native applications.
Right, exactly. And if you think about why the public cloud was so successful, they just took all the friction out of things for people, right? They gave them VMs, they gave them containers, but they took all the friction out. We think this is going to be a big step in sort of taking a lot of that IT friction out of things for developers.
Can you just go a bit deeper into the friction? Because just to highlight some of the advantages that are there when you allow them to manage, virtual machine and cloud native applications, and traditional application using the same, I don't know if the pane of glass is the right term here, but through the same application to simplify things for the CI/CD pipeline and all those things.
Here's an easy way to think about that. So if you think about IT infrastructure teams traditionally, they've always been measured and sort of incentivized to not go fast. Their goal has been be stable, be secure. We're not looking for you to rush. We want you to be, kind of Rock of Gibraltar. And then you have these application teams who are measured on, new features. How quickly can you make updates to the application? They're measured on going fast. And so what we've seen be successful in Kubernetes and with OpenShift is you didn't want to necessarily link those two things together. You didn't want to bolt the fast-moving application developers to the slow-moving or sort of unincentivized infrastructure team. And what we think is going to happen is continuing to keep access to virtual machines and that construct in the fast lane, if you will, is going to help developers. We don't want to take Kubernetes, bog it down, and put it in the infrastructure domain where they've always been incentivized to go slow. We want to give them the ability to say, go fast, make your pipelines run as quickly as you can, do updates as frequently as your business needs to. We think that paradigm has proven itself to be very, very successful.
We understand that we got the whole foundation now. Now let's just talk about one by one the OpenShift virtualization and the advanced cluster management for Kubernetes.
Why don't we start with advanced cluster management, because it gives us a big context. So if you're a customer today, even if you've been successful with Kubernetes, you might have 10, 12, maybe a couple of dozen clusters, right? So you may have built some big clusters for centralized things. You may have some individual clusters for certain groups. But what we're seeing more and more is as you become familiar with Kubernetes, you want to allow your teams to have their own clusters. You may want to run them anywhere you want to. And so we really needed a tool set that was going to manage hundreds or thousands of clusters, be able to deploy policy consistently across them, be able to make sure that they were secure, so do sort of GRC types of things across them. And so what the Red Hat Advanced Cluster Manager technology does is it really gives us a robust management framework to manage lots and lots of clusters across any environments. So thousands of clusters, policy-based management, integrated security controls, integrated sort of governance controls built in. This is going to allow customers to say, I can start to open up some freedom to my teams to spin up clusters when they want. I can know they're going to be secure. And if they want to deploy them in any cloud environment, I don't have to worry about the nuances between them.
Brian, thank you for taking time out of the busy schedule. As I said earlier, we should be doing it in person, but we are doing virtually. But once again, thanks for explaining not only the whole, the virtualized application and cloud native application, but also the work that Red Hat is doing in this space. And I look forward to seeing you in person soon. I don't know if that is going to happen this year or not, but let's keep our fingers crossed. Thank you once again.